And welcome back. We got an echo. Well, let me see if I can fix that. Welcome back, guys. Late Night Green interview series. What's going on, Todd? How are you?
Hey, nothing much, Ended a beautiful summer, and now it's fall, and we're turning over a new leaf.
We're turning over a new leaf, huh?
Yes.
Well, we're turning over a new leaf, but we're not turning over a new leaf when it comes to this echo for some reason. So let's see if does that help?
Yes.
All right. So good. We're good. We're good. Tonight, with this interview series, we have an exciting one tonight. I don't know, I always say exciting, but not all of these interviews come in the same shape and form. So tonight we have a pretty interesting one, and I think you guys are going to like it. And but before we start that, we got some feedback from our last interview with Emily.
Okay.
Emily Kincaid, and Kincaid, I got that wrong. Yeah. Kincaid, and she's the one who wrote she's the co-author on the Pennsylvania adult use bill. So when we get towards the end of tonight, we're going to kind of cover that real quick and some of the feedback we got, and we have the perfect guest here to talk to them about. So without going any further and without holding this up, let me introduce candidate for Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Gabriela Mendez. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? Just pull that mic up and get real close to it, because there we go. It's sensitive. Welcome to our show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing great. You and I had a chance to meet a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And you were doing some commercials.
Sure.
And I kind of overheard the commercials in its raw form. I'm like, wait a second. Here we have a very unique person here. This is not just anyone who's come through. You are a 24-year-old
yes.
Republican
yes.
who's running on a pro-cannabis platform.
Yes.
Do I have that right?
You have it all correct.
What the hell are you doing here? How did you get here?
Great to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Just trying to shake things up in Pennsylvania politics. When House Bill 2500 came up with Rep. Emily Kincaid and Rep. Aaron Coffer, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to expand on legalization for adult use in Pennsylvania, especially having it be from two people from opposite sides of the end.
Bipartisan.
Bipartisan support, that's what it's all about. That's how we get things done.
True.
And I think a lot of really important pieces of legislation in the past few years have been stalled because we're not willing to work together. So it's really exciting to see both parties work together on this bill, and I hope to see it get passed.
So is that one of your main motivations in being in this race?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a lot of other economic factors and educational factors that go into this campaign, but something that I was really excited to talk about was legalization in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the people that I speak to at the doors and at community events, they all feel the same way. Most people in Pennsylvania would like to see a little bit more progress on medical marijuana and recreational use marijuana. And just this past year, there was over 13,000 people in Pennsylvania that were locked up for marijuana. And I just don't feel that we should not be penalizing anybody for something that should be legal.
It's true. A plant.
And a good one.
It's
and it's used for health.
It's medicine.
Yeah. It is.
It's medicine.
And,
do you know? I mean, listen. We want to get into your history and your background and why you did all this. We'll get to that in a second. But do you know how many failed legislative attempts there has been so far with cannabis?
I don't. I've looked into a bill that my opponent had put up, and it really just lacked a lot of thought and effort. It was almost like I campaigned on this. Now I feel that I need to do something about it. And the bill, there was no substance to it. And I think when we're legalizing marijuana, there has to be some substance to the bill, and there has to be bipartisan support so both parties can agree.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And you don't get much. And listen, we don't get much bipartisan support for anything today.
We sure don't.
We really don't.
Guess we could come together on the leaf.
We could. So you are a unicorn in a way. In a way.
Sure.
You don't look like one, but you are, in a sense that you have certain positions that are really a little bit different than what you would see from the Republican Party. So why don't we take a step back before we get there and tell us about yourself, where you grew up, and give us a few tidbits about yourself and how did we get to the point where we're running for Pennsylvania representative state house.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I'll say that. I'd never really imagined myself to be running for state representative at 24, but I think my history puts me kind of in the position to be able to advocate for our community. I grew up in Prospect Park. I attended Prospect Park Elementary School and Inner Row High School. Went on to Westchester University, where I got a degree in political science and a minor in Spanish. And I think before back it up. Before I got to college and through high school, my mom passed away from ovarian cancer when I was 14.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry to hear
thank
that.
you. I think I understand the challenges that our community is facing with all of the economic factors, the educational factor, and just like hardship. And I lead this campaign with compassion because I know that at one point in my life, I really did need it. And I got that. I got that support.
As do we all.
Yeah, I got that support from my community, from my teachers, from my coaches, from my friends. And I think that we need new young faces in Harrisburg representing us. The breakdown of the 162nd district, it's a fairly young district. Majority of it is 20 to 40 years old. And when I started going door to door, I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, how am I going to be perceived as a younger face, a younger candidate? But it's been overwhelmingly positive, and they hear that I'm not so far to the right, I'm not so far to the left. I'm kind of just in the middle and looking to do the best for our community.
Which is really where most people sit. I mean, most people sit in the
people
middle.
agree.
All
Yeah.
the noise is made on either end,
Sure.
but the
Right.
work gets done and the commonality falls in the middle. So do you feel like this is a way you're in a way giving back to your community? Because it almost seems like you feel like you owe them something for what they gave you, and I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of people throughout our community, our police, our firefighters, our teachers, a lot of friends that are now working in the districts of some of the school districts that our area represents in the 162nd. And it's interesting to get kind of their feedback as to how times have changed since once we were in school or once we were, hanging
So
out.
tell us some of the things they're saying.
I mean, especially for my teacher friends, the school funding is not there, or maybe it's there, but it's not being allocated correctly. And I think that legalization is one way that we can generate some revenue for Pennsylvania, for our schools, our teachers, our infrastructure, our general economy.
I'd be okay if they gave all the damn money to the teachers,
Hey,
to be
listen, well
100%,
needed.
to be
Well
honest with
needed
you.
for education.
I mean, it's the most important thing that we have is our kids, what they eat, their education, and we're not doing a great job with that
Right.
at all.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
We're going to do, and we're going to do a show like this is a cannabis show, but we are going to have a guest come in where we're going to talk about like health in general and just some of the shit that's going on today. And it's kind of nuts. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with your personal little survey going door to door campaigning for the House of Representatives, what would you say the percentage is of the community that is for legalization for adult use?
Sure. I would say probably overwhelmingly more than half. And I think it comes down to the breakdown of the age in the district is that it's fairly young. We grew up in a different generation where maybe it was stigmatized for a long time, but at this point, I think we're working towards like leading with a different way of thinking when it comes to marijuana. And I've never been opposed. So I think that most of my friends that maybe are sitting on the other side of the aisle who are willing to come across the aisle and vote for me because they, one, know who I am, and two, this issue is really important to my generation.
It is. It really is. And listen, I think it's been important to many generations, but I think that where we can, at this point, understand the value of cannabis and marijuana, I think it gets applied different. That's kind of how I see
Sure.
it.
When we're talking about well-being, so
Yeah,
that's
it was
common for
never
everybody.
a part of a well-being conversation. It was part of you're either part of a derelict group or you weren't, right?
Yeah, we're not in the closet anymore.
No, no, we're not. So So you went to school in Westchester. You were in political science.
Yes.
At that point, was there any thought that even with a political science, you didn't? I knew. Yeah.
No, not at all. I actually totally intended to go to law school. I wanted to pursue criminal law.
Right on.
And
Nice.
with this issue in the background, I was like, this is something that I would never want to prosecute as a criminal attorney. And I had the opportunity to work on a house campaign as an intern during college, and that's kind of how I got into this because I saw the change that we were making. I saw what our work we were doing at the doors and talking to people. And personally, I love knocking doors because I get to hear directly from our constituents and I get to hear their concerns. And I never really looked back from there. I have worked on a lot of campaigns in Delaware County, and I think that the reason I wanted to stay in the political atmosphere for Delaware County was because I wanted to change it. I wanted to change the status quo of the Republican Party, and I wanted to elect people that I knew had my best interests at heart, our communities, and some of the issues that maybe we probably reside in the middle, and this is one of them. So.
Interesting. So when you came full circle and you realized, hey, this is something that I can do, A, and I can make a difference, B, and it's about. I'll even take a step back further. When you and I spoke, and I heard that you at least cannabis was one of your items, and I said, hey, let's talk for a second. And you told me, I really felt it from you right there. You're like, I'm very passionate about this cannabis topic, and as we are, that's why we do what we do. So to me at that point, it was like, yes, we need to talk to Gab because this is something that she can really enlighten our group with. So you've gotten into politics, you've gotten into this race. Was there anything that you were doing within politics before the race?
Yeah, I worked for the HRCC. It's the campaign committee for the House Republicans, and I also was formerly with the Delaware County GOP and the Republican Party for Pennsylvania. And I love the atmosphere of politics because I think that that's where we make the change. We have the conversations, and some of the conversations are not always pleasant, and you're going to have to agree to disagree at some point. But I think we can all agree that that legalizing marijuana, I mean, most of my district and most of Delaware County is for it. Why it hasn't been done yet is beyond me, but
Yes.
I'm hoping that when I get elected on November 5th that we can make that change, and I'll be the first one to sponsor a bill to make that happen, and I will work with both sides of the aisle to make it happen.
So talking about HB 2500, right?
Yeah, yes.
So talking about HB 2500 here in Pennsylvania, they have to get that done within this particular session, correct?
Yes.
And they don't have many open sessions or in session things where they can get this done. So what do you think is going to happen with this particular bill?
Unfortunately, I don't know that it would be necessarily on the agenda. That's the first priority. There's obviously it's an election season, it's election year. So when it's an election year, I feel that most progress is stalled because everybody is so consumed with what's going on at home in their campaigns. The other factors too is the majority balance within the House with between the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Democrats do have the majority. However, I see some Republicans crossing over. I've had some conversations with Republicans in the House, and I see that it would get passed. I don't know that it's their first priority from the Pennsylvania House Democrats.
Right. You were going to say something?
No, that's a good point. So I guess the main topic is now the economy.
Well, but I'm just curious about the whole Republican thing. So where do you stand? Like how do other Republicans seeing you right now? Are they seeing you as she just has enough balls to say it and we all don't, or what? Tell us what's. What's the behind the scenes?
To be honest with you, I mean, when I talk to most Republicans, it's the same issues: the economy, the school districts, infrastructure. When I'm talking to Democrats and independents, Green Party, non-affiliated voters, this topic comes up all the time. I actually was out knocking doors in my hometown, and I walked up and I was like, hey, I'm running for office, and they were smoking a joint on their porch. And I was like,
Nice.
like, perfect way to kind of introduce that topic to legalize, because I'm like, hey, well, I'm for that as well. And they were like, cool, like that's really cool of you. Like, and I think maybe people aren't as surprised within the
But are you
Republican
giving
Party.
people an option, like someone who's Republican who sees this issue as whether it's a top issue or their first issue or their third or their fourth issue? It's almost like you have given them permission. You can vote for me.
Yeah.
I've come out. I've told you. I think a lot of these guys feel the same way you do, but for some reason, it's taboo to say it or to somehow put it on your website or
Sure.
yeah.
They'll support it, but don't want to lead it. So.
Which I don't even I don't necessarily understand that, because you'd think that Republicans are for, we're missing out on all kinds of revenue. The state's missing out on all kinds of revenue.
100%. That could be going towards, like you said, we talked about our teachers. Our teachers could take it all, and I would be a happy person.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that as well. So why doesn't that stimulate them? Like there's a bucket of money or pot of money at the end of the rainbow. Why don't we go get it?
I think it's just like the lack of ambition that anybody has to really talk about the tough subjects. And it was really cool, like I said, that a Republican and a Democrat came together for this bill.
Do you think it's the leftover lingering effects of these things that you see on our wall here? Government
That could be relative.
government propaganda that really changed generations' thoughts on what we now know as a medicine.
Sure. And I think that the generational difference too in the House. We have a lot of
Elder statesmen.
elder statesmen.
Call them old
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
Yeah. So with the new genre coming up now, so that organically will take care of itself. So
Sure.
so you guys coming in with the great ideas and the support and the push, I think we'll get somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that too, like something that I kind of realized within the Republican Party as I made friends and just like people that I've worked with, is that generally we don't care. It's just that like usually people are just afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to say it, and that's why I'm like, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to say it. I think like let's get it done. And my opponent, like I said, put up a bill with no effort or really any bipartisan support. You have to get the bipartisan support, or it's just going to sit. It's
DOA.
a dead bill. So, he's been in the Pennsylvania House for 6 years. That's 3 different terms, and I don't know why it has to take so long to get done. Like, let's get it done.
Yeah. What is the hang up? You had the bordering states, right?
Sure.
They have it done, and they're getting all the revenue. What is it? Do what's your idea? What's stalling things?
The bipartisan support. I think that that's what it comes down to, is that Republicans are afraid to talk about it. Democrats are for it, but they're also afraid to talk about it. So it's just kind of like a non-issue that's really ever brought up. And then every once in a while, a bill will pop up, and it kind of is like dead on arrival. And
For some reason, I thought we had to do there was like a referendum, but Pennsylvania doesn't do referendums, from what I just found out.
yeah, no, I think it would have to be, through the House, through the Senate, and sent
Just
to the
like
governor's
normal,
desk.
any other bill, any other piece of legislation, it would go through the same course of
Yes.
action.
Mm-hmm.
This would be perfect setup for a late night green march to Harrisburg.
Ooh, I like that idea.
You want to do
Count
that?
me in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Hey.
Look at you.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole lot of rolling we have to do before we leave.
That is a bit of rolling we have to do. So what is your plan if you win before I even ask you that, what are some of the differences that Republicans and Democrats have with how they want to legalize cannabis?
I think the taxation and the privatization of it,
Mm-hmm.
and like being able to home grow versus not
That's a
being
big
able
one.
to, and I think that I was actually talking to you earlier, when I travel to different states, I like to see how other states do it. Arizona, Michigan, Colorado, a couple of states that I've been to, and I kind of compare how have they done it versus how have we done it, and what could we do better versus, what are the benefits of how they legalize weed and how they sell it and things like that. And I would say it really comes down to in terms of where the hang up might be is in the packaging. Is it childproof safe? Is it FDA approved, or is it regulated by the state and things like that? And I think Pennsylvania has a great opportunity to legalize it, especially when you are looking at statistics that Pennsylvania has the highest rate of overdoses with opiates like xylazine and things like that. And I'm like, you hear Philadelphia and Kensington where opiates and fentanyl is just wide open and it affects so many different people. And then you have a plant like marijuana, and the most you're going to do is eat a little bit, maybe fall asleep,
It's
that's a
not
great point.
not even in the same conversation.
Yeah, that would naturally take away from some of the, overdoses.
Yeah.
People come to something that's regulated, what's in it, and you can do it and feel good about it.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to if, hopefully when we legalize weed here in Pennsylvania, is that we can then go to the store and buy it. Now, I don't like there's been some mentions in Pennsylvania of keeping it in a liquor store or in a state-run store. I don't think that's the best idea, and I think
I
that
definitely don't think that's a good idea.
And here's my reasoning why. If you're sober from alcohol, but you smoke marijuana, or you want to go in and purchase gummies or any form of it, and it shouldn't be together because they're two separate substances in that nature, and not everybody wants to see it in the liquor store, not everybody wants to see it in the marijuana store.
I mean, I think the right place is if you're going to do it at a dispensary. I agree with you that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a store that sells medicine and poison in the same store. So to me,
That's a really good point.
it doesn't even necessarily make sense. I don't know. What do you
That's a
think
good
about
description.
What do you think about it?
And I agree. I think it should be a separate entity. And, people feel more comfortable going to the dispensary for their hey, go to the liquor store if you want liquor.
But to the same point, I don't think that the state should be involved in liquor sales either, to be honest
I
with
agree.
you. And most states are. And I don't think they should be selling, frankly, I don't think they should be selling any products to the consumers. That's not what the role,
This is true.
in my opinion, that the state is. Regulate the process, regulate the manufacturing, regulate the distribution, regulate the transit. You can regulate stuff without selling it. So, I think that would be a horrifically poor idea if Pennsylvania went down that route. What do you think about the fact that this particular HB 2500 involves the Department of Agriculture, which is a bit different than how other states have done it?
I think it could be interesting for our agriculture in Pennsylvania to generate revenue and kind of create new jobs for the farmers.
Yeah, that's how I'm for it. If we're going down the route of agriculture and then this becomes a crop that's available to the farmers that are established here in Pennsylvania that meet the criteria, I think that would be a great opportunity for them. Too often, it doesn't involve regular farmers at all. Too often, it involves highly specialized grow houses with people that, if you put them on a farm, wouldn't know what to do.
Sure.
Nor would the people on the farm know what these guys are doing in basically, indoor grow facilities, which are, in essence, laboratories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of interesting that Pennsylvania went down this road to have the agriculture department involved in it. Was that something to make it would you think that was an element to make it bipartisan, or do you think it was going that direction anyway?
I think maybe that was sort of to bring the bipartisan support, because typically Republicans in Pennsylvania are pro our agriculture department and pro farmer, and small business in Pennsylvania where we can grow and source locally. And I think it's a great idea. It would create so many jobs, and it would.
We could use our local resources.
We could be using our local resources. That's exactly it. And I think it's a good step forward.
What's your thoughts on, the big multi-state operators, they call MSOs in the industry, the big retailers who come into states and get extremely tight established footholds in various communities. Do you know anything about the bill that would, how is it formed in the sense that it opens up new licenses to regular everyday people who want to be in the industry? Are you familiar with that?
So I think that, keeping out kind of the bigger corporations and letting it be Pennsylvania grown and letting it be open to someone like you or I who might be like, hey, I want to go down that road and I want to open this small business. I think that's the goal, is so that it's like local and it's a small business and it generates revenue and creates jobs for Pennsylvania and whatever district you live in. So I'm all for it. In terms of keeping it local, keeping it small, because some people have asked me, like, well, what do you think about a federal, legalization? And as much as I'm for it, then I also have in the back of my mind, everything the federal government touches, they ruin.
True.
So I don't want them to ruin this for us, and maybe it is best to keep it in Pennsylvania's hands. And I go back and forth because I'm not running for federal office, but I just see what's going on in Washington.
I think when the states take an individual approach to it, they can tailor the program to meet the demand in that particular state, the people's particular needs. However, until we get to the point where it's off the schedule list altogether and we can have free trade like we do in alcohol between states, that's really where I think the opportunity for the industry to really take off will happen.
Sure.
But it's interesting. What are your thoughts on it?
Do you have a date for that? You could be the wisdom guy on that. What do you project? What year will that happen?
Well, we're going to introduce something to this show next week, and if that individual is here, we could ask them that question right now, but we'll save that for then.
Hold that for then.
We'll hold that thought for then. So let's talk a little bit, let's switch gears real quick and talk about your platform where you're running. You're running, in a county that is on the outskirts of Philadelphia. And so tell us about your platform outside of cannabis, and then we'll dig deeper.
Sure. Well, I am definitely pro small business. I am a small business owner. I'm a consultant. And I see some of the bills that are coming up in the State House that would pretty much tax me out of my business. So I'm very pro small business. I cover the 162nd District, which is Chester Pike and McDade Boulevard, two main roads. And I see what it looked like 5 years ago. And I see what it looks like now. And there's so many businesses that are closed, so many businesses that are struggling, or just kind of staying open because they can't really afford to close, and they're laying off workers and things like that. I've actually only ever really worked for small businesses, hair salons and food restaurants and things like that. So I think it's good to keep it local, and it's good to kind of have your hometown places. And I'd like to see us kind of have a resurge in the 162nd District because we're right outside of the city. It presents such a good opportunity for us to have our business districts booming. People are coming into the city. You want to visit Delaware County. You want to come into good old Delco and see what we have to offer because, in my opinion, it's the best place ever.
Delco's very popular now.
Somebody over here likes that place too.
Yeah. I think also, too, healthcare is really extremely important, especially with my family's history with cancer and just medical bills. I understand what it is to kind of have to worry about that and wonder, what are we going to do like with this bill that comes in? So I have a hospital in my district. It's Taylor Hospital, and they recently closed the operating rooms. They had to lay off over 30 nurses and hospital staff. So that's another issue that's presented in the district, because that's the hospital, you know, if you had a fever or you needed to go, you know, there for an emergency, that's where you went. Now the closest hospital is pretty far out, and or you could
Out
go
of the district?
It is, and you know, the other option is probably going into the city to University of Penn or other hospitals throughout, you know, the city of Philadelphia. So it's important.
But not that it's not that close.
No,
Yeah,
it's not. So if you're in need of an operating room, you're going to have to travel a bit. And that's a big issue that's come up when I talk to people door to door, especially with our seniors, because they rely on having that accessibility. And the more and more with the state of the economy I hear is the affordability. People are choosing between their health and their paycheck. And as I've mentioned too, our school districts, they this past year in the 2024 budget, it was record level spending to go to schools. Now, every teacher that I've talked to is like, well, we don't have up-to-date textbooks. We need support staff in the classrooms. We need mental health services. You know, we need just resources to be able to actually teach our kids. And Pennsylvania has really alarming statistics in literature and math.
What are our statistics?
About 74% of fourth graders cannot read at a proficient level. Same goes for math.
74%.
Yeah.
Now that's depressing.
Yeah. It is. And I'm 24, so I don't have any kids, but I hope to have some someday. And I would be afraid to send my child into the public education system when I'm not sure that they're really getting anything out of it. And I wish that we would allocate our resources better so that it actually reaches the teachers, it reaches the students, and we kind of have a resurge of the programs that we lost during COVID. A lot of programs never really came back. And we're spending so much, but we're not seeing anything get
There's
better.
no efficiencies.
And I don't think that this is going to be a one-year issue where it's like, oh, it's going to be a quick fix. It's definitely not. The public education system is broken, and it's going to take good legislators who are willing to work together to fix that. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. I like my town. I like my neighborhood. I like my neighbors and my friends. And a lot of my friends are now leaving because they're like, well, you know, I found a better opportunity elsewhere. Taxes are better, home prices are better, and that's another big thing in Delaware County. We make up, the collar counties and Philadelphia make up over half of the property taxes in Pennsylvania. And we're getting taxed out of our homes. I've spoken to so many seniors, and they're like, I've worked my whole life, and I might have to leave. It's
That's
wrong.
crazy.
It's wrong.
That's
really
insane.
tough. Your house is paid for, but the taxes are, you know, putting you out.
So that's a crazy
situation.
statistic. You're saying that the collar counties around Philadelphia
Yeah.
make up what again?
Over 50%.
That's insane. You guys know how big Pennsylvania is? And guess what? There's another major city in this state,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. That's nuts. That's
Yeah.
pretty nuts. All right, well, listen, we're going to get ready, and we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
And during that commercial break, we're going to play your commercial.
Awesome.
So, so we're going to do that. We're going to play that commercial break now. Control room, if you can get that ready. We'll take a commercial break right now, and then when we come back, we'll talk about home grow, and then we'll share some conversation and some X feedback that we got from some folks.
Awesome.
All right, cool. We'll see you guys in a second.
I'm Rob Cantrell, and
Gabriela Mendez has been a proud resident of Delco and the 162nd District her entire life. She knows the unique challenges faced by our neighbors because she's lived them.
At 14, I lost my mom to cancer, and my family and this community became my stronghold. Now I'm running for state representative to bring a new generation of leadership to Harrisburg.
Join Gabriela Mendez in building a brighter future. It's time for a representative who understands our communities.
Let's make real change together.
All right, come on. All right. Well, that worked out well, didn't it? You know, live TV is live TV. Sometimes things that you think are going to work don't work when they're supposed to work. We just go with it. We just go with it. Well, we got your commercial in. That's the only important thing. Do I have your mic on? No, I don't. All right, we got your mic on now. Your commercial played. That's the most important thing. So one of the things that we talked to Emily about, and, you know, we talked about home grow, and home grow is a very important component of legalizing, at least at the state level, this plant. And from what I understand, there's no provisions within this bill for home grow. But not only that, there's no provisions to decriminalize home grow. And if you're not going to offer home grow as part of the program, I think part of it you should be taking out the criminal component of it, because it just seems like it's a bad idea. Her answer is that, listen, this is a bipartisan bill, and if we make this too big or make it too detailed, I didn't have your mic on either.
Yeah, if it's too detailed, then could be problems.
Yeah, so she's saying, like, listen, you know, there's a lesser likelihood that this bill will pass if it's loaded with extra things. But to me, that's not an extra thing. That's like a core component. What do you think about home grow, and what do you think about, like, this conversation we had with her?
I agree. I think, obviously, you know, I do agree with Rep. Kincaid. Like, if you add too many components, it scares people a little bit, and I don't know that it would get the support from Republicans in the House. Now, I think that I agree with you is that we need to take the criminalization part out of it for home grow, because if you're allowed to smoke it, eat it, you should be also allowed to grow it. And people like that. People like the idea of being able to grow their own plants. And
That's right.
And they know where it came from. They know it was done correctly.
They know there was no pesticides used. They know what growing techniques. They know everything about what they grow, because typically people who grow are astute with this. It's not like, hey, let me try to grow some peppers. It's not that. It's they know what they're doing. And so there's a reason why, you know, they don't want to pay taxes. There's a reason that they want a certain level of quality control that they feel only they could provide. And I mean, listen, I hear you, and I hear what Emily said in terms of, you know, making a bill too comprehensive to the point where it doesn't get bipartisan support. But I don't know, like, everyone we talk to feels, and everyone who's from the industry, you know, home grow is a critical component. Maine was the opposite. Maine had home grow before they ever got their whole retail system together. So I don't know. I feel it's interesting. Now, by having Emily on, you know, we got some comments. You know, there was one in particular, and I asked the control room to throw up the comment A on X. You pop that up, and basically, you guys can see it here. PA Conservatives for Cannabis. By the way, I reached out, and I'm inviting whomever, he or her or whoever this person is. I'm interested in hearing what they have to say, and I'll make time available on the show for us to be able to talk about this. But what he writes is, why didn't you ask your guest why her bill gives felonies to nonviolent Pennsylvanians who cultivate a plant? That's kind of what we just talked about a minute ago, where if we can't stack the bill to get everything we want, what's the possibility of at least getting this part addressed? And do you think that this is considered stacking stacking a piece of legislation?
I think if we're going to legalize it, we have to do it right, and it has to have every component of decriminalization to home grow, to be able to purchase it outside of a Pennsylvania liquor store or of that nature. And I also think that we have to decriminalize it and expunge records of those who have been convicted in Pennsylvania, because it shouldn't be illegal. That's the bottom line, is that it shouldn't be illegal. But that's why we have these conversations and you bring in experts. But I think that in terms of home growing, I don't see why it's an issue, and I don't really think it's a nuisance within the community either, if it's in your home or it's in your garden or it's in a grow house. I don't see why it would be an issue. And I also think that we wouldn't see it as much in southeastern Pennsylvania either, because we just, with climate issues and things like that, and then in terms of
we have a lot less space and land. I mean, let's just talk about the basic stuff. We're all living in a much tighter area than the folks in the center of the state are. The bulk of the population, I think the significant bulk of the Pennsylvania population, either falls over in Pittsburgh or right outside of Philadelphia. Everything in between is pretty sparse.
And I think it would be very accessible in southeastern Pennsylvania at a dispensary. So most people probably would go to a dispensary as opposed to home growing, but it still gives people the option, because there is some towns in Delaware County or collar counties outside of Philly that there is some space and it presents the opportunity for people to be able to grow their own. But for the most part, I think it's really going to be more beneficial to our rural parts of the counties in Pennsylvania, not necessarily where I live, because we just don't really have the room.
Yeah, true. All right, Rye, if you can put up comment B, same individual, and we'll take a look at this one. Pennsylvania Conservatives for Cannabis writes, why didn't you research your show's guest corruption before giving her the attention? Emily's overlords demand she keeps arresting nonviolent Pennsylvanians. She supports their request. And there's a video there. We can't play it because this is just on a slide. But there's a video where, this guy is talking about the arrest of nonviolent drug convictions. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the comment we received for that one?
Well, I mean... Oh. That's an interesting one.
Well, I mean, listen, we're being criticized for, let me say this, and you tell me what you think, Todd. We're not going to agree with every person that comes in here. We are a pro-cannabis show that talks about the issues related to cannabis, and the legalization cannabis, and the lifestyle of cannabis. Everyone who comes in here, I mean, Emily was noteworthy, and I think she was a great guest because she brought the information about the bill. She was a co-author on it. I didn't get into the politics with Emily. I didn't get into my politics with her. Neither did you.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about, and this is, and we talk about this all the time. One of the things that cannabis does is it levels the playing field, and it allows people who come from extremely different parts of the spectrum to actually gain traction and agree on something. I mean, you can take people from polar opposites, and if they, if they partake in cannabis each evening, and you put those two together, tell me they're not going to be okay with just getting high together. They will.
Yeah.
And so, this show, it's true, man. So this show is really a byproduct of that thought process. I mean, our show is, we want to be able to bring people together. I didn't bring Emily in because I agree with her politics. Matter of fact, I don't even know most of her politics. That's the reality. And until I was introduced to Emily, I didn't know her. So Pennsylvania Conservative, we're not promoting anybody. We're giving folks that are pro-cannabis an opportunity to come on and tell us why they're pro-cannabis and what contributions they've made. Mm-hmm. And we'll put the third comment up to same individual. And listen, you put it up right now, if you could. So Pennsylvania Conservatives for Cannabis, you are welcome to come on Late Night Green and tell us, about, your thoughts on the whole Pennsylvania cannabis legalization efforts. But he writes, Representative Kincaid is corrupted by greedy corporations. And this was a repost off of someone talking about how pesticides are harmful. And, they talk about, it talks about, any plans to report advocacy for more pesticide. I don't know. Do you know anything about this pesticide thing? Is this an issue that I'm missing out on that you might be aware of?
I guess it's not really something that I necessarily looked into too much. But I mean, I think I hear it more within the agriculture community with our foods.
Right.
So
for sure.
That's more so, I guess, where I would say, our food isn't the best in the United States.
No, it's not. It's not even close to being the best. It's terrible.
It's the worst. And I would like to see that if we're going to legalize marijuana, that at least what we're smoking is clean, in terms of, no pesticides, no any artificial colorings or anything like that. And I think it's good to talk about this. That's why we're all here. We share a common ground. We share a common interest in legalizing in Pennsylvania. And if we don't talk to each other, then
how do we move this
forward?
How do
we move forward? Right. That's why this has been stalled for so long, because nobody's really willing to talk about it. So I commend
while Maryland, while Delaware, while New York, while New Jersey, everybody around us, with the exception, I believe, of West Virginia,
yes,
are all legal.
Mm-hmm. And, I commend anybody who's willing to have the conversations. So I think it's an important issue, and I'd like to see us get it done in this, maybe if not this year, and hopefully when I get elected on November 5th.
You're going to write it?
I'm going to write the bill. I'm going to write the bill.
Are we going to write it at this table right here?
I will. I will come back and write it right here.
Hey, guys, you heard it. We're going to write the new bill if this doesn't get passed. Gabby's going to bring this. She's going to bring her pen, her paper, and all her legislative skills, and we're going to write this bill right here. What do you think about that?
Late Night Green.
Right on Late Night Green. That's amazing. So, so just to finish up on the whole Twitter thing, the Pennsylvania cannabis conservative, whatever the hell your name is, you are welcome to come on Late Night Green and tell us why we're terrible people.
Maybe he knows us.
Maybe he does. I suspect he doesn't, because I haven't heard from this individual before this. So it must have been as we were posting, and someone searching for Representative Kincaid, and they see this, and then the comments start flowing. So
I believe I actually got maybe a message from this account. So I typically answer, but
was it a good message or a bad message?
It was actually about home grow. So you never really know who's on the other side.
Well, we hope to find out.
And I don't necessarily the what is your position, and why or why not. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
let's break it down and talk about
there
it.
You go.
But
that's the problem.
The keyboard warriors do not want to talk. They want to shoot off quick comments, and then they want to do it under the cover of darkness, so nobody knows who they are. Now, listen, I'm extending an invitation to this person to come on Late Night Green and talk to us about it. But you got to come on. You got to come on the video, and you have to be able to do what Gabby just said, which is not just shoot off comments, but actually have a conversation. The one thing I will say, as I looked through, this individual's, X account, it is almost all that. There's no suggestions of what would be better. It's only what they don't like. Mm-hmm. And see, that's a one-sided conversation. Right. That's not how we get shit moved forward.
Exactly. That was my point.
So, all right, we're getting down to the end, to the nitty-gritty, as they say. Tell the world here why they should vote for you.
Jeez. Well, I mean, I want to bring new leadership to Harrisburg. I reside at the middle on a lot of these issues, and I have a lot of energy, and I would like the opportunity to represent my community, because I think we need young, new faces with differing ideas, that is not one or the other extreme, and it's time for change. It's time for us to work together. That's probably the most frustrating part of, the political aspect in Pennsylvania, is nobody wants to work together. And we've said this many times tonight, but it really has stalled so much progress. So I'd like to work with both sides. I'd like to kind of be the middleman if I have to be, to get some legislation passed when it comes to, funding for education, mental health services, and legalizing marijuana. I think that I could be the person to have these tough conversations with our Republican caucus and with our Democrat caucus. But more importantly,
We think you are too.
But more importantly, I have an issue with our current representative because he's just not there. He's not in our community. He's not, he never changes his party vote. It's always with the Democrat side. And we don't need that anymore. We need
Stuff to get done.
I mean, this was the most.
If everybody just votes on their party line, nothing ever gets done.
This
Ever.
was the least productive House session in forever. Like it blows my mind because these representatives are bringing in six-figure salaries, and you're not present in your district. My opponent's district office is closed most of the time. I've had people call me and say, I went in there and no one's there. And then if you're not there and you're not in Harrisburg, what are you doing?
So reps are making six figures? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I think, you're walking the walk. You're definitely about the community. You went to a local university. You worked in the small stores, small businesses. So, you're organic. You're naturally representing what you're looking for. So, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's super cool that you are, you're doing all this work where you grew up. This is all super meaningful to you. And there's people who are involved in politics that, they're transplanted into certain areas. They don't know, they may not have the sense of the community that someone who's lived there their entire life has. So what I think you're doing is pretty amazing. I think you doing this at your age, being a Republican, and then having enough guts to come out and say what you believe in terms of cannabis, I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
And we are definitely pro Gabby. So,
Thank you.
So guys, what's the district again?
162nd district.
162nd district, Delaware County in Pennsylvania. If you live there and you're watching this show tonight, you need to vote for Gabriela
Everyone, get out and
Mendez.
vote.
Get out and vote. This is an important election. There's a lot of stuff on the line, and this is important stuff. We can't kick the can forever, and we have to address it. And I can't see, what would another 2 or 4 years look like if we keep kicking the can. So I'm all for getting stuff done now. I realize that it's not always going to be as perfect as we want, and there's compromise. When you get things done, there's compromise that has to be involved. So, I get it. We still stick with the position that cannabis is medicine. It should be legally available to everyone, both through stores and through their own, through their own means. And so we'll stick to that. I just want to thank you, Gabby, for coming. You're always welcome back here.
Thank you.
You were a great guest, and I think you added a lot of insight into who you are, why you're doing this, and what they could expect if you get elected. So
Thank you for having me. It was good to come.
it was super cool. So, all right, guys, Late Night Green. If you haven't subscribed, get on there and subscribe. Right now we're broadcasting on Rumble and YouTube. We're going to start adding X to the mix. And then we also have a late night version of this show. Right now you guys are watching the interview version. There's a late night version. It would come after this one. But we are working on getting ourselves up to speed. So also, if you guys want to be on the show, on the late night show, send us an email to latenightgreen420 at gmail.com. That is latenightgreen420 at gmail.com. Give us your information. We're going to have a portal set up soon where you can go and do it. But if you're going to send an email, send us your name, your phone number, your email address, where you're from, and why you want to be on the show. And if it all works out, we'll get you scheduled in. And, the Late Night Green late night show is all about us having the same kind of conversations that you have you had with us, but we want to be able to kind of open it up and see, what does homegrown mean to just the person sitting next to me who we don't know. And I think that full circle conversation is where the power really sits in this. Yeah. So last words, Todd.
Hey, let's hear from people. Like you said, please contact us, give us your information, and be a citizen of the show.
That's right. Like, follow, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on all the social media platforms. As time goes on, we're going to work our way more towards the freedom platforms like X and Rumble, but we want to make sure everyone gets to be introduced to us, I guess is the best way to say it. So, yeah, man, I think that's it. Gabby, thank you.
Thank you.
Todd,
Thank you.
thank you as always.
And Mr. Phil.
Thank you, my brother. All right, keep it green. See you guys. Take care.